Hello, welcome to our first online lesson in Algebra 1. Today we're covering section 1.3, right expressions. And first part is our warm-up. Remember what we talked about in class? If you haven't tried the warm-up yourself first, you need to pause the video, do the warm-up, and then come back and check. This is supposed to be review material and it gives you a good chance to practice the kind of questions that are going to be on the quiz or test. Okay? All right, so our first directions say evaluate each expression. And the first expression we have is 1.6 minus g, and they give us a value for g. So our first step would be to plug in a number, or that value for the variable g. Okay? So remember, mathematicians are lazy. We don't put parentheses around, even though we're supposed to when we do an evaluation, unless what makes a difference in what case something like an exponent when the value is negative. So you can leave them off, but just be careful sometimes, okay? So then we subtract and we get 0.4. And number 2, we have to evaluate the expression p to the third power for p equal 8.2. Now, it's not going to make a difference if you put parentheses in this case because the expression, the value of the variable is not negative. But it's a good thing to get in the habit whenever you're doing exponents to go ahead and put the parentheses there. So this is 8.2 to the third power. And this is where I pick up my calculator and give it a try. I got 551.368. Okay. All right, number 3. We're still simplifying here. So simplify is a lot like evaluate. You'll see evaluate used for these same things. But simplify just means get the expression as simplest form. Okay. So we have 7 over 3 to the second power. Now you don't really need a calculator to do this one. If 7 over 3 doesn't reduce here, then after I square the top and square the bottom, it's still not going to reduce. And remember what we talked about? Improper fractions are great answers. Okay, it is okay to leave it just like that. You're welcome to use a calculator to turn it into decimal, but make sure you find the repeating part correctly. Okay, the recurring. So here we're going to do the multiply first. So we're going to copy down everything before the multiply and replace the multiply with its answer. So 13 minus 12, and then that'll make 1. Okay. All right, number 5, 4 cubed divided by 8 plus 8. So first would be exponents in the order of operations. So 4 to the third power is 64. And then we have divide by 8 plus 8. Second thing in the order of operations that we have to complete in this problem is the division part. So 8 plus 8, and then when we add them together, we get 16. Okay. All right, number 6. We have every part of the order of operations included here. We have a grouping symbol, the parentheses. We have an exponent, the little 2 up here. We have a multiply between the 1/6 and the answer to our grouping symbol. And we have a subtract. So we're going to have 4 steps of work here. So it's going to be 1/6 times 24 minus 2 squared. Then we can do our exponents next. So 1/6 times 24. Notice I left it in parentheses for the 24, but you could just put a dot there now. Because once we've worked out then a single number in parentheses, but it's right up against another thing, so it really just means multiply. So this would be minus 4. Then I multiply those together, which 1/6 of 24 is just 4. It's really 24 divided by 6. Minus 4 will give us 0. So that whole thing works out to 0. All right. Number 1 on the bottom. So this is new material, kind of. This should be review still. John has 4 copies of the science report made to give to his lab partners. In each copy report, there are 20 black and white pages and 5 color pages. He paid a copy center to make and bind the copies, and his cost in dollars is given by the expression 4 times, so this is 4 for the 4 copies, 5 times C. 5 times C. C is the cost of a color copy, and remember he had 5 color pages. That's where the 5 comes from. And then plus 20B, and B is the cost of a black and white copy, and he had 20 black and white. That's where the B comes from. Okay. All right, so we're going to use our expression to determine what the total cost of it was if he has to pay $2 for a color page in this bind it copy of the lab report and 5 cents for a black and white page. All right, so we'll work it out. So we have 4 total copies he's making. And in place of the cost of a color page, we're going to put in $2. And in the place of the cost of a black and white page, we're going to put in $0.05, $0.05. That's a nickel. Okay. All right. So we have grouping symbols. So we got to work inside here first. So this is going to make 10 for that multiply plus, let's see, 20 times a nickel. I think that is $1. Okay. And then we're going to continue inside our grouping symbol to get 4 times 11. And we end up with 44. So the total cost, a word problem should always have a sentence answer. $44. Okay? All right. Second page, to translate verbal phrases into expressions. So in this case, we are going to list the ones that you would see in the book here, but we'll come across some other ones later. Okay? So you're going to see things like sum, okay, plus, more than, increase by, and then other things like add or something like that. Okay? All right, so be careful with more than here. I won't take off if you make this mistake for more than, but you'll see why I say be careful for less than when we get to less than. So more than, if I said 8 more than 5, this really means 5 plus 8, not 8 plus 5. So I had 8 more than I had yesterday. So I take yesterday's amount and I add on 8. So 8 more than changes the order. More than changes the order of the two things. Okay? So it doesn't make a difference for adding, because adding is commutative. That means it doesn't matter which direction you add it. 5 plus 8 or 8 plus 5, they still make 13. But it will make a difference when we get to subtraction and we write less than. Okay, so for subtraction, we have difference. We have minus. Okay. We have a less than. Okay. Decreased by, subtract, and then there's a good bit of other ones, okay, that we'll run into later. Okay. And just like in the last one, let's do an example here. If I had 8 less than 5, that translates into 5 minus 8. Okay? And that is a different answer than 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 would be 3, but 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Okay? All right, so for multiplication, we have product times by, okay, multiply, and then we'll run into some other ones while we're doing the problems. These are the ones you'll see in the book there. Okay, and division, we have quotient, divide by, oops, divide by, and we'll see some other ones as we go through. Okay, all right. So we're going to translate some expressions. 4 less than the quantity of 6 times a number n. Okay? So 4 less than. Less than is going to translate into subtraction. And it's going to flip the order of this 4 and whatever is back here. Okay? So the quantity of 6 times a number. All right? So that less than we knew changed into subtraction. What's back here? 6 times a number goes like this. So 6 times n. And then the 4 is going to go on the right side. So this will turn into 6n minus 4. When you're taking the quiz, I'm going to have things like 4 minus 6n on there, or n over 6 minus 4, or 4 times 6 minus n. So you'll see all kinds of things. You need to make sure that you know how to translate it correctly. Okay. All right, so 3 times the sum of 7 and a number y. Okay. So 3 and then times is going to be multiply. And then sum is the answer to an addition problem. And the word and in here takes the place of the add. Okay? So a lot of people think that and only means add. And means a lot of things. It takes the place of what sum or product or quotient and changes it with that symbol. So in this case, sum makes an add there. Okay? So this will be 3 times, well, we want to get the answer to the adding first. So I got to put that in parentheses. So 7 and a number y. So 7 plus takes the place of that and then the number y. So I want the sum, that means the answer to that. Okay? So that's why I have to find the adding part before I multiply it by 3. Okay? So the difference of 22 and the square of a number m. So same thing I was just saying. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. If you look for the word and after you see one of those answer parts, that's where you're going to put the subtract. So the difference of 22 and the square of a number m. So that means I have to square m. Exponents are going to happen before subtraction, so I don't need to worry about parentheses there. Okay? The quotient, when the quantity of 10 plus a number is divided by 2. So quotient is division. We want 10 plus a number x. Because we want to do that part first, quantity means I'm going to have to put it in parentheses or use a grouping symbol. I chose the big bar for this grouping symbol since it's division. And then I'm going to divide this by 2. Okay, another way to write this might be like this. 10 plus x in parentheses and then divide by 2. Okay, either one is fine. Okay. All right, a piece of ribbon L feet long is cut from a ribbon 8 feet long. Okay, write an expression for the remaining feet of ribbon. My ribbon started as 8 feet long, and I cut off L much. So this is what's left. All right, and then our last one. You work with 5 other people at an ice cream stand, and all the workers put their tips into a jar to share the jar equally at the end of the day. Write an expression for each person's share of the tips. Okay, so T, it can be the total tips. And our expression is going to be the total tips divided by 6. Be careful and don't get tricked into just using this 5. Remember, it's you and 5 others. So there's actually 6 people. So you got to read these expressions pretty closely. All right, that concludes our lesson for today. I will see you in class next time as we practice this.